April 9th. This is the Hadley Smart Growth Steering Committee. We have a quorum. I will run through the attendance online. I am Mark Dunn. I see Randy Iser. I see Andrew Gnatic. I believe I don't see it right now, but I think I saw. Oh yes, there's we have Ronnie, right?
Mhm.
Is Ronnie
Yep.
is Ronnie attending? Okay. And we
Yeah.
have Kishore. So we have five. We had a previous membership of six, but I got a recent email from Nicole Berkium that she cannot commit to our schedule, so she's going to drop off. So that drops us from six to five. So our quorum is three. Just before we started, we discussed the fact that two of the members have to leave, one at 5:30 and one at 5:50. But we will still have a quorum, so we will continue. And on that, I will just also add that at the last meeting, anything that we discussed or voted on after Randy left, would have to be re-voted. I don't think we did vote on anything, but our quorum dropped off at that point because Nicole had not yet dropped off the committee. So with all that, I'm gonna mute since I'm in the car, and I'm gonna hand the reins over to our honorable Kyle Finnell of the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Sorry to be virtual today, but because of just consideration of the limited budget that we're working with and the fact that my colleague Aidan Hemian McMahon is joining as well, we decided to Zoom in for tonight's meeting. I've put the agenda for the meeting up, and I just want to walk through that real quick and then proceed. So thank you, Mark, for your welcome. We can turn it open to over to public comment if there is any at this time. Don't know if there's any public joining us online. It doesn't look like it, but after public comment, I'll turn it over to my colleague Aidan for a quick introduction because I know he also has another obligation. So Aidan, welcome.
Hi, thanks, Kyle. Hi, everybody. I can't see you all, but I know you're there. You can hear me all right? Yes?
Yep.
Excellent. Okay. Well, hi, everyone. My name is Aidan Hemian McMahon. As Kyle mentioned, I'm a senior land use and environment planner at PVPC. I'm excited to be working with you all on this smart growth project. Yeah, no, I think that it'll be great. I mean, I'm sort of going to be filling in for Kyle a little bit while he's away, and we're going to be tackling this together. So excited to be working with you all.
Yeah, so thank you, Aidan, for joining. For everyone in attendance and everyone watching, Aidan has collaborated with me on other smart growth projects that Pioneer Valley Planning Commission has worked on in our member communities. He's also one of our more knowledgeable housing planners. So this is kind of broadly speaking topics that we're both fairly fluent and comfortable with. And over the next month or so, in preparation of our next public events, Aidan will be getting up to speed on kind of the work that the planning or the steering committee has already been working on, and just reacquainting himself with Hadley kind of generally so that he's ready to step in May when I will definitely be unavailable. Any questions for Aidan at this time? No? All right. Great.
No, I would just say thank you on behalf of all of us and the town. And we'll try not to show our disappointment when you hand the reins back over to Kyle.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you. Well, I know Aiden has another obligation, so I understand if you have to bow out. Thank you again for joining us. Aiden will be attending all of the scheduled meetings moving forward, and will be the point person whenever I have to take my paternity leave.
Yep.
Going back to the agenda, we're at item 4. There were a set of minutes that Kayla distributed past meetings from last summer and fall. So I don't have those pulled up, but I can pull those up. Kayla, do you want to do that, or are you ready to do that?
Yeah, I'm not on the Zoom though.
How about if we ask if everybody's looked at them first before we do that? Rather than
Sorry.
waste time.
Yeah, so has everyone had a chance? They were sent out last week, or was it? Yeah, I think it was Friday or so, right?
Yes,
So has everyone had a chance to look through them?
Yep.
Okay, any concerns, any corrections, any omissions, anyone took notes and would want to speak about at this point?
Nope.
no,
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to accept the 3. I don't have them in front of me in the car, but if, like Andrew, if you want to take that motion and mention what the dates are of them and
Yeah.
and then call the vote, that would be great. I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, motion for the dates of, to approve the minutes of the dates August 5th.
Is July 17th, July 15th of 2024 and August 16th of 2024.
is that, you're making that motion, Andrew?
Yeah.
September 16th.
July 15th
Yeah.
of 2024.
All right, second,
Aye.
All in favor?
Can I
roll
vote
call.
if I wasn't a
Oh,
member?
roll call. Start a roll call with Randy, want to start?
aye,
Mark Dunn, aye.
Kishore, aye.
Ronnie, I, if I'm allowed to vote, because I wasn't a member on those dates.
You are. And Andrew, aye. Unanimous vote. So showing 5 yes, 5 ayes.
If I may, co-chair, acting chair, I'll jump back in. Next agenda item is to review
Yeah,
draft
I'm gonna be in and out as my cell service drops, so you should see Andrew as the acting chair, and I'll be here when cellular lets me be there. Thanks.
So we'll move on to review draft agenda.
Yep.
Um,
Let me switch my screen. So based on the conversation that we had at our March 26th meeting, I heard clearly concerns from the members that were still present, that we didn't want to be too ambitious for the public events, and we wanted to make sure that both steering committee members were prepared and comfortable to speak to the topics, but also we wanted to make sure that there were more opportunity for the residents in the community to be present and participatory. So I kind of reimagined from our conversation and looked at the calendar to think about a secondary date. So we would have 2 very similar public forums with a very similar agenda, but 2 kind of broader themes. So the first would be on that Saturday, May 17th, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. We identified that as the best Saturday because it falls after Mother's Day weekend and it's the weekend before Memorial Day weekend. And then looking at the next week on the town community calendar and on this senior center calendar, it looks like Thursday, May 22nd is most likely available. And I put in the time 6:30 to 8:30. I reached out to Nikki LaCory today to try to confirm available dates and space, but was not able to connect, so I'll have to circle back. But at this point, just want to confirm with the steering committee that those dates and times work for everybody or is preferable.
Fine with me.
Yeah, good.
Works for me.
Fantastic. So we can look at the draft agenda then. A little different from the initial proposal from last meeting. We had talked about, there'd be, of course, a brief welcome with some opening remarks from the steering committee chair, Mark, and then PVPC staff. In this case, Aidan will be present to offer and go through an introductory presentation, which is to kind of reorient and reacquaint the community with the project, talking about the goals and the context, again, reiterating that this project comes directly from the master plan update and explores topics identified in the housing production plan and is in the authority of the planning board, and it's their initiative to explore the topic of smart growth. And the goal is to, through community engagement, craft a bylaw amendment that the planning board is comfortable and confident would be well received at town meeting. Not to say that it would necessarily pass, but just they want to make sure that whatever they're developing and bringing before town meeting has been kind of vetted and shaped through community engagement. So we would set the stage for that and then kind of introduce the topic of the event, including some of the more passive elements that we discussed. And then this is where in point 3, I kind of changed it. We hearing steering committee members' concerns about being too ambitious, decided that really we want to have 3 kind of conversations happening over a 60-minute period so that residents and participants can come and go, engage with conversations, kind of rotate at their leisure. But of course, encouraging rotation every 20 minutes or so. There would be a steering committee member or a PVPC staff at one of the 3 stations to kind of facilitate. We would prepare some guiding questions, and there would also be a large flip chart at each of those conversations to try to capture conversation points, questions, ideas or preferences. And then there could be a series, and we can determine what is appropriate, but there could also be passive boards. So for an example would be, if we're talking about housing on a particular night, we could just have a board of a variety of housing topics or typologies, and residents can, without much prompting or facilitation, just kind of vote through the application of a dot sticker what their preference would be on a housing type that would be encouraged. That's just an example of a more passive element. So that we would want to, after the hour of conversations, we'd want to have some type of report back so that from each of those 3 stations, the facilitator would just kind of share key takeaways, common threads that emerge through the conversation from the flip chart. And then we would have a brief, and not even necessarily 10 minutes, but just a brief kind of closing presentation with next steps, any future events or future kind of tasks for the steering committee, how to stay involved, and of course, a thank you. So if that agenda seems a little more manageable and more likely for success with the steering committee, Aidan and I have discussed how to break up the topic of smart growth and 40R zoning specifically, looking at session themes. Saturday would be.
I
I'm
just
sorry.
want, when I looked at my calendar, my knee surgery had to be postponed. And it's the
Okay.
21st of May, so I will still be in the hospital on the 22nd, so that date does not work for me, but seems like there's enough other people.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you,
There's
Ron.
not- Yeah, we're not gonna be able to get everybody
Yeah.
lined up exactly, but before you get too deep into what you're gonna start talking about, Kyle, I'm
Yeah.
looking ahead at what's on your screen share there. And I envision the two separate days as being two separate groups of people coming. A day group and a night group, and it seems to me that it would make sense if we had the same content of the meeting both times, so that people wouldn't feel like they got cheated out of something if they couldn't make both of them.
Right.
And that's my opinion. I don't know what anybody else feels.
I agree.
I agree as well. I think it's two with the same net. We're trying to capture different members of the community.
All right.
That you may have to incorporate all, both your 2-day agendas into one somehow. So we get all the points that you're trying to connect.
Okay. I may need some time to think about that in terms of what are most kind of impactful in terms of the elements of the zoning bylaw that we want and really need the most community input on.
Yeah,
And, of course, some of those could be combined, such as, looking at how we had imagined the Thursday, the second event being mostly housing. We can combine some of that and just streamline the questions, or maybe introduce another passive element to get information from residents without, taking up a lot of time to discuss it. But yeah, I might need to just think about how best to combine that so that we don't necessarily add a fourth conversation happening. Because also considering the space, don't want to have so much conversation happening that it's disruptive or disorienting. We want it to be comfortable and kind of welcoming for folks.
Is it possible to get that sent out?
Send this.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. I can share this with everybody.
Would it make any sense to have 4 subjects and 3 are in breakouts, and then the 4th one happens, everyone comes back together? Or, I mean, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of how to make that work.
Yeah, possibly.
and yeah, depending upon how many participants we get, the breakouts might not even be feasible.
Right.
So we have to factor all that in.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember how we've done it in the past. In similar projects we've done. I think we've done something like let's like a mixed use, smart growth conversation, a housing conversation, a design standards and kind of amenities.
And I'm envisioning, Kyle,
yeah.
that most of the people that come are already gonna have some preconceived notions that they're gonna wanna tell us about.
Yeah, and I'm trying to be, of course, anticipating that some residents will come with some preconceived notions, perhaps misconceptions, and perhaps even axes to grind, so to say. I'm trying to be respectful of that, but also think of ways to discourage those interactions from kind of derailing or monopolizing conversations. So, of course, not to say that those perspectives are any less valuable, but you know, we are trying to gather information for a purpose to inform what we think the bylaw should look like, and the steering committee is kind of our validating board, review board, to make sure that we're getting it right. So I'm imagining a couple of more passive elements, boards, large posters with stickies where we can encourage residents to, you know, if they have their concern or if they have their kind of hot button issue that they want to get off their chest, to put it there, park it, and then try to engage with the topics more constructively.
Yeah, and I think at the start of these sessions, if we, you know, Mark as the chair, when his opening statement just makes people understand that our task is to create a bylaw. We are looking for input to make, as you said, Kyle, the best bylaw. And hopefully they can want to contribute to that. We're not creating it. I mean, we were not passing it. We're just trying to come up with something to go to town meeting. As long as they understand that it's got to get voted on at town meeting also, then hopefully they'll be more willing to share their ideas in a reasonable way.
Yeah. So, and you're right, Randy. I think a lot of it, when this is where Aiden and I will try to do as much work leading up to the event, and you know, kind of planning it out and programming it, is you know how to preempt those, and how to make sure that we provide language for the steering committee members to work through those kind of contentious topics that may arise. Looking back and thinking about the thinking about like the conversations that are happening, I think we could get it to like 4 tables. And that would be that might be, I think that would just require, you know, as full attendance as possible from the steering committee members, understanding Ronnie has one conflict in the second date.
Yeah, I was imagining, and you know, you could tell me I'm all wet, but I was imagining logistically that we plan for 30 people. We might get 8, we might get 100. I don't know. Randy might know what the maximum allowed in the social space is. But if it's a larger group, we might want to have each board in a different room. Like one's out by the fireplace, one's in the social hall, one's down by the billiard table, and one's in the exercise room, so that the conversations don't distract each other. Or, you know, if we get a forest fire in one, it doesn't spread across all 4. You know, if we get some kind of, as you said, someone is coming to try and derail the whole thing and filibuster or anything like that. So, but we plan for, I was thinking we plan for, hoping to see 30 to 40 people. And if we get less or more, well, plans are what you start with and then you just adapt.
Right.
Your thoughts on that, Randy or anyone else?
So as far as the capacity of the senior center goes, Kyle's gonna have to find that out when he talks to Nikki.
I'll
Okay.
confirm.
And if I remember right, Thursday night is late night here.
Not right now. I don't
No?
think that was in the summer.
Okay, well, we just gotta, Kyle will find that out, or Aiden, whoever's gonna deal with it. And then once they verify we got those dates, then, and he can verify the capacity. But yeah, if we get a bunch of people, then if there's extra rooms available, we can certainly move things around as needed.
Should we put something like RSVP preferred, not necessary, but preferred?
Good idea.
It won't hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. Yeah, I thought about that, Kishore. I think it would be worthwhile, especially since we really are kind of going at this blind in terms of understanding how many people may be of interest and maybe turning up.
Yeah, my
Um,
only concern is when people see RSVP and they don't, having the verbiage saying that we would prefer it, but it's not necessary. So it kind of adds some flexibility to it. Sometimes people get intimidated when they see they have to RSVP and they forget to, and they don't show.
Right. But it would help us get an advanced sense of what to plan for.
Yeah.
In terms of all of our logistics, and if we're gonna provide some light refreshments, what to plan for as well.
Yeah, and that's something we can set up. We can set up a QR code or something on the announcement flyer. People can just quickly, take a picture of, get onto their web browser and just give us a quick head count.
You need another way because a lot of the older folks don't do that stuff. So there has to be like a phone number or at least a web address, I think.
Okay.
Instead of
Yeah,
RSVP, I would put something like plan on attending or something along those lines.
So in other words, do you plan on attending?
Yeah,
A question, not a statement.
yeah.
And we can say, helpful for us for space consideration. So they know why.
Absolutely.
I think we should have them email Randy. I think he said he doesn't get enough emails.
Yeah, please.
Here we done. I do just want to note, I'm seeing that it's 5:30, just for a quick time check for anyone that needed to leave the meeting.
Yeah, pretty soon.
Okay. All right. So, hearing the steering committee wanting to have essentially the same program for both events, is it all right if we come back to a finalized list at our next meeting in terms of those those topics, those conversation topics?
That's fine, Kyle,
Okay.
with me anyhow.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we'll review it and just make sure that we're getting the right, as we'll prioritize, those elements of the bylaw that we think community input is most valuable. I think, for me, those first three are kind of coming up. And then housing is a necessary part of the bylaw. So we'll have to include housing in some regard. We'll just have to decide, what information is conversational and what information is more just, quick, passive kind of, thumbs up, thumbs down type of information.
Yeah, I'm thinking that the housing is going to bring the most response, because I think people are scared to death that it's all gonna be low-income housing. And, the town is gonna get turned into, I don't know what. But
Right.
I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of concern about that.
Okay.
And it's
That's good.
5:30, so I have to leave. So carry on, have fun, and good luck, Kyle.
Thank you. Thank you, Randy. Is it all right? Any other thoughts on the agenda, or can we talk about just kind of our draft outreach thinking at this point, or thumbs up?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can go to the
Okay.
draft.
So I proposed this at the last meeting, but we couldn't make any deciding votes or anything. I was thinking that outreach was really going to happen in two ways, primarily through an announcement flyer that would be both physical and digital. So this would be sharing event information once it's firmly set after I talk with the Council on Aging and Senior Center. Date, time, and location. Quick little reintroduction to the project. We'll include on the flyer our RSVP information. The question, are you planning on attending? Please let us know by visiting X webpage or contacting X email account. We appreciate your help in planning for this event and letting us know you're going to be there. Something to that effect. The flyer would be physically available starting May 1st. So there'd be a stack at annual town meeting. And on that same day, we would try to get those posted at public bulletin boards. I know that we've handed them out at the library and the senior center and the town hall. Would be welcome to send them to any other public bulletin boards if there are any to note. If not, that's fine. We'll make sure to just have a few.
That's a good idea.
And then I'll make sure
Did
that
we
that's
try to leave some? Did we leave some at Vesta when we had our survey? I can't remember.
is that the housing development? Vesta?
Yes, it's over
Yeah,
over
I-
toward the Amherst town
Yeah,
line.
I think Alex distributed some for us, so I can communicate and collaborate with Alex and make sure that if that project, that was, I think, because he was working on the digital equity project, he was able to he was already planning to be over there. But I will definitely be in contact with Alex and Hadley Media to make sure that the digital version is ready and available for them to start including in their regular broadcasts or in their edited videos. And then if possible, this is something that I haven't broached with Alex and Hadley Media yet, is if they would be able to broadcast kind of a project slideshow, which is the second outreach idea that I was bringing to the committee for consideration. So this would be a brief slideshow presenting, general context for the project, reviews the project products thus far. So the land survey report that kind of paints the picture of population, land use, and housing available in town. And then also summarizes the survey. And we could also expand that, it could be even more. So I'll need to connect with Alex if Alex is not present tonight, just to get a sense of if this is even something that Hadley Media is willing and interested in supporting. I'll try to clarify the question of, how long is too long. It could be as short as, a couple of slides. Or it could be up to, I don't think it'd be more than 20 slides to present all the information. But that's number comes from estimating 5 to 7 slides for the project intro, which some of you have seen. We would, create something very similar to what we presented to the steering committee members, particularly those new ones that came on in the last few months. Just painting that kind of context, reiterating the goals. I would like to introduce everybody so that residents know that this is a committee of volunteer residents. And just kind of highlight the products to date. And then if we wanted it to be even bigger, we could adapt those FAQs that the steering committee worked on last fall following the survey, to summarize kind of those to help maybe calm any of the potential confusion or upset that may be lingering in the community regarding, adding 100 dwelling units. What does that mean for schools, for property values, for public service, such as public safety, and the like. So we can kind of turn those FAQs, which most of them were single page anyways, we can try to make those more concise and just turn those into individual slides and just try to build the case for why smart growth is worth exploring and the impacts aren't as dire as you may think.
One of the things that that would be helpful if I were attending this, let's say, is a picture of all the districts. The aquifer, the new senior district that got voted in, and I don't know if they could be on one map with different colors, just so people could see what is there now.
Absolutely. We can definitely work on that. I think what I would recommend, and I invite steering committee feedback on this, is since the charge from the planning board is really to be focused on the Route 9 corridor, I would prefer to create like an original map that just is the Route 9 corridor and all those zones that are in relation to those properties. So not going too far afield and not necessarily showing all of the boundary of the town of Hadley north to south, but really just focusing on the corridor of Route 9 and showing how those properties and adjacent properties are zoned currently.
Kyle, I had a question on when you were talking about the slides, was that for Hadley Media?
Yeah, these slides.
Yeah. Would it make sense to have the FAQs kind of separate, like right underneath, like have two different like options? Because if you just load up the FAQs it seemed a little direct. Like I don't know if it read well enough. Like it might be beneficial to have like what we're doing in one like slideshow and then have the FAQs like in a totally different one, like with the same availability on Hadley Media.
Yeah, we could do it that way if you think that would be more like, more positively received. Not necessarily to blend those two. Any thoughts on that?
Were you thinking these would be displayed in a central location, or we'd have, say, a laptop at each location that could have those scrolling through those slides? What was your, do you have any suggestions on that one?
Yeah, my thinking and my question with Hadley Media is like, is this something that they could run as kind of like commercial breaks, or kind of programming filler, if they could create, turn a set number of slides into some type of like little presentation that just runs. And
I
this is
was
where
gonna-
No, are we
If it
talking
was
about having
possible to
this
put it on like
live?
the YouTube channel.
Andrew, can you say that one again?
I was wondering if we could put it on the YouTube channel for Hadley Media.
Yeah. Yeah, that
I
would
was
be,
thinking, like, have the separate with the like what we're doing, and then have the FAQs separate in there, like right underneath it. But which is totally different than if it was running in the commercial breaks.
I would explore all of those options. So I can before our next meeting, I can schedule that conversation and have it with Alex to clarify kind of what their capacity is and what they if they have any recommendations in terms of best, what's the best means of getting the most eyeballs on the content.
Yeah,
And
if they could create a YouTube video on their channel, we could put a link to that on our page so that anyone who's looking at our page for resources could hit that.
yeah, absolutely.
And you're thinking it might be something that they air on their live channel daily, or
Occasionally, or
Yeah.
possibly if they have lulls in programming or a day that they don't have a lot going on, maybe. I don't know. That's again something that I would like to explore with
Yeah.
Alex, with everybody's endorsement.
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. So still some things to clarify before the next meeting, but I do think these conversations have helped give some guidance. I don't think I have any other topics to bring forward. I will just quickly reiterate what I've heard in terms of the dates from the board or from the committee. Those dates look good with the understanding that the second date, Thursday, the 22nd of May, is a conflict for Ronnie, and Ronnie will be unavailable. She'll be in recovery, hopefully a little bit up and on her feet, but we wish a healthy and quick recovery for that. I will reach out to confirm the space and time availabilities with Nikki at the senior center, and I will also confirm capacity for that main presentation room and kind of talk through contingencies in case we do have a wonderful and robust attendance. In terms of the agenda, I hear that from the steering committee, this looks good. Recognizing that this open house conversation period, we'd like to explore 4 thematic tables so that the programming would be essentially the same on both dates. It's the 4 thematic tables, those kind of conversation topics. That's where PVPC staff will reconvene and bring forward at our next meeting a final recommendation, and we'll try to go ahead and get further along with some guiding questions and kind of program even those passive elements as well, so that's a little bit more clearly articulated. We'll also have the introductory presentation more detailed and outlined. And then in terms of outreach, I will connect with Alex at Hadley Media, primarily to talk about the capacity for creating a slideshow that would be on both Hadley Media YouTube and potentially on the public access channel, to introduce and talk about the project in one set of slides, and then a second separate set of slides kind of doing the myth busting based on the FAQs that the steering committee drafted last fall. I'll also work with Hadley Media to digitally promote the announcement flyer once the details of the dates and times of these events are confirmed with the senior center. We'll get the announcement flyer crafted and digitally shared with Hadley Media so that they can also promote through the public access channel. And we'll get a set number of those printed and ready following, steering committee approval at the next meeting.
And we're still gonna do this, day of town meeting, hand out some of this.
Yeah, I would think that, really promoting in person actively on town meeting and at town meeting, I believe Randy, I actually at the last meeting, I can't remember if we confirmed he had discussed it with the town moderator, but he believed it would not be an issue as long as the flyers weren't inside the town meeting space.
Yeah, I
If it
think,
was just
yeah, I think he still had to confirm it, or
right.
yeah, you're right, Kyle. I think he said as long as it's not in the town meeting space, it has to be like right when people enter.
Right, yeah. So I think we're okay there. And if we post those flyers around at public facilities and try to get some of them out to the multifamily developments and housing developments in town. And if Hadley Media can start promoting virtually and digitally through their the local access channel and through their YouTube channels, that gives a solid 16 days of outreach before the first event, a solid 3 weeks of outreach before the second event. I think that's pretty robust. It's not as direct as slipping something into the water bill, but hopefully it won't be as costly, but equally effective.
One thought I had
So-
on the registration is, so in addition to the QR code, instead of having people email somebody, we could have like a sign up sheet, direct them to sign up like at the senior center or something.
Yeah, we can do that as well. That might be best.
So I'm gonna drop right now.
Thank you,
Yep.
Kishore.
Yep. Sorry, I can't stay. All right, take care.
Yeah, I don't
All
know.
the best.
Thank you, Kishore.
Okay, I don't believe I amended any of this. So I will send this out to everyone so that you can review it. And I invite feedback if you have any further thoughts. I also would invite, if there's a topic that you're particularly interested in taking on as a facilitator or a topic you are particularly adverse to, feel free to let me know just so that we can, just be mindful of people's comfort because some of these topics are more or less nuanced and complex. Some of them are more or less contentious and kind of energizing. So I believe if I switch back to our agenda here,
Session on next meeting time and topic.
there it is. Yeah.
I think we had scheduled the 23rd of April. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is the public forum date, so I don't know if
Okay.
I'm gonna change that. I think it might be later.
So,
April.
here we go.
April 23rd at 7 PM is the annual town meeting public forum at the senior center.
Okay. So we from PVPC's perspective, we can still have that meeting time, we can also likely zoom in so that we're not creating too much of a disruption. But also, I think, with the guidance from tonight's meeting, I don't see a need for more than an hour at the next one.
Okay. So five's still good too.
So that is the 23rd,
Yeah, 5.
5 to 6.
So will it be, hybrid?
Yeah.
Yeah, hybrid, but anticipate PVPC will be zooming in.
Thank you, Kyle.
And for
Of course.
topic, are we planning on finalizing the agenda for the public event? Public forum?
I think it would be finalizing that and also finalizing our outreach materials.
Okay,
So we might not necessarily have all of our public event materials prepared. We'll definitely have the draft, the agenda, more fleshed out. But I would think that would be our last meeting before annual town meeting on the 1st. So we'll definitely want all of our outreach materials to be kind of in a final state for the steering committee to approve, and then we can forward all of that off to Alex and Hadley Media.
okay.
Yeah, I'm thinking that if we're gonna have 3 or 4 stations at that next meeting, we should maybe figure out who's gonna volunteer for each one and work out those logistics. See if we need to recruit a 4th person.
Okay. So in that finalizing of the May event program, we can discuss logistics and assignments. Any other thoughts on the next meeting? Ayla, I'm sorry I missed you.
I know.
This would have been the second time I got to meet you, but
Yep.
it's still only once.
Next time.
Wow. I don't have anything else, so back to the chair or co-chair.
Okay, well, if there's nothing else, do I have a motion to adjourn?
I would so move.
Okay, roll call,
Done, aye.
Aye.
Ronnie, I, Andrew, I. We're adjourned.